infinity.
Yes. So the question is about people who are hundreds of years old or thousands of years old or even millions of years old, and that is meaningless in the concept of eternity and infinity. And that's true. But you see, it gets back to the idea that we talked about before, that relationships have to have a form. And the unlimited has to be limited in order to have what we call reality. And so I'll just talk a little bit about that, because see, what we have is infinite eternal energy, and this energy is evenly distributed throughout all space and time. And so when you get over your fundamental search for enlightenment and realize your divine nature in the form of energy, thought, and form, then there's nothing to do but to play with the form. And we play with the form through our mind. But there is a fundamental difference between energy, thought, and form. Energy basically is just there, and it doesn't do anything except vibrate. And so the energy itself is dependent upon the movement of thought for action. And so the mind is the activator of this energy, and energy becomes what it thinks about. But the goal of the creative process is to materialize your thoughts into form that stay there when you're no longer thinking about it. So the fundamental virtue of the universe, the physical universe or physical reality, is that it stays there when you're no longer thinking about it. It is created by thought and it is destroyed by thought, but fundamentally, if you leave it alone, it'll stay there when you're not thinking about it. And so I think that people have a tendency when they get into spiritual enlightenment and metaphysics to think that their mind is everything. And the truth is that the mind is ultimately in control, but it's not everything. That the physical universe and physical reality and manifested form is totally real. I mean, the idea of Christian Science and the Course of Miracles about the physical universe not being real, it is real. And your common sense will tell you that, in spite of your metaphysics, that the physical universe is real, and it stays real until it is destroyed. And it can be destroyed by thought, but while it is in existence, even though it may be temporary, one of the things that I like to say is that the physical universe is more reliable than most theologians and religious philosophers. And as a result, it sticks around after they are long gone. And so we have to come to terms with an adequate philosophy of the physical universe and build our relationship with the physical universe into a thorough enough system of thought that includes all the facts. And if we don't do that, the facts keep getting in our way. And the physical universe keeps getting in our way. But when we have an adequate philosophy of the physical universe that includes its nature and its appropriate role in our spiritual development, if you want to say it that way, then we're much happier. And we make peace with the physical universe, and the physical universe really serves us instead of being our enemy. And so that kind of expansion of our philosophy is necessary in order to come to terms with the idea of physical immortality in a practical way. We have to have an appropriate relationship with the physical universe. And one of the things that Babaji told me when we were in private together is that earth, air, water, and fire is the eternal sadhana. And he has been trying to train people in the integrity of the disciplines with earth, air, water, and fire since the beginning of time. And whenever the human race gets in serious trouble, which we are in now, he appears And he starts the training process over again until he gets enough people involved in the reality of earth, air, water, and fire, because there's a big difference between the theory and the reality. And one of the biggest problems in human existence is telling the difference between theory and reality, and dealing with accurate cause and effect relationships. And so the fundamental disciplines are all pleasurable. When you learn to do conscious breathing, how many people have done more than one conscious breathing session, or at least one conscious breathing? Okay, over half the people in the room. And so, and how many of you are breath workers? Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 at least. And so, learning to breathe energy as well as air, it can put you into ecstasy in 30 seconds. And it puts you into the transcendental state in 30 seconds once you learn how to do it. And it is the fastest method of getting into the transcendental state. And the advantage of doing it through the breathing rather than just with the mind is that it takes your body with you into the transcendental state. And it also brings the benefits of the transcendental state into your body. So breathing is a fantastically effective tool, and it's absolutely essential to the mastery of the body. Fire is something that it's just a simple 4-letter word. But unless you know the reality, unless you have been initiated spiritually into the healing power of fire, then it's just a word. It doesn't mean anything, and it will never produce any practical value in your life. But when you develop a conscious relationship with fire, and you incorporate it into your daily life, and it's as important as food for a healthy mind and body. Fire is as important as food for a healthy mind and body. And when you learn that in your own experience, and you build it into your value system, and into your behavior, it makes a tremendous difference. And so then there's water. Human lifespans have doubled in the civilized world where we have indoor plumbing and warm water. And baptism, which is the basic sacrament of the Christian religion, is about water purification. And all of the immortal yogis that I met bathe twice a day. And I can go into many more specifics about their disciplines, but bathing twice a day is fundamental to cleaning and balancing the energy body. And then there's earth. And so earth purification fundamentally has to do with our diet, our relationship to food, and our relationship to exercise. And our career basically exists for the purpose of satisfying our need for food as well as shelter. But if your shelter is a problem, you can always move to a warmer climate, and then you only have to worry about food. And warmer climates usually have an abundance of food. And so if you want to be immortal the easy way, move to a warmer climate. But what I found in working in the tropics is that people are lazy not because it's warm. They are lazy because when it's warm, they don't have a relationship to fire. The death urge gets stronger and stronger in the whole culture. And the reason that people are lazy in warmer climates is because of the accumulated death urge in the culture. And I demonstrated that by doing trainings in certain cultural situations and just watching people come alive in 9 days. And all of this laziness and lethargy that they accumulated from their culture just disappeared as a result of having a conscious relationship to fire, as well as water and air and earth. And so fasting is also an important aspect of our relationship to nutrition. We have to learn when to eat and when not to eat, and then what we should eat when we do eat. And so all of this has to become conscious. And if you think about this, first of all, you'll notice that we're talking, yoga is called the science of life. It's science, it's scientific. And you see, when you go home and you feel yucky and you take a shower or a bath and you feel better, you have scientific, experiential proof that water works. It's not a theory, and it works whether you believe in it or not. It's not dependent upon belief. It's not a religion. It is a real scientific fact which you can demonstrate twice every single day. You can demonstrate the power of water purification. And the same is true with fire, and the same is true with fasting, and the same is true with breathing. And they're all pleasurable. Is sitting with the fire pleasurable? Is soaking in a warm bath pleasurable? Is conscious, ecstatic energy breathing pleasurable? Is having good nutrition pleasurable? And if fasting is not pleasurable, if you fast 1 day a week, I promise you that you will enjoy eating the other 6 days at least twice as much. And so fasting increases our pleasurable relationship to food. And so how come the techniques which have existed from the beginning of time, make people immortal, are all pleasurable, and the neglect of those simple and pleasurable spiritual practices make people so miserable they want to die? Isn't it amazing that the secrets to immortality are simple and pleasurable? And if you want to be miserable, just hang out with a person who has a complicated mind. So, earth, air, water, and fire are ridiculously simple. Just 4 little words. But there's so much contained in them. Good. A couple more questions. It's already time to finish. Yes?
Do you know anything about Saint Germain?
Yes.
He's supposed to be another.
The question is about Saint Germain, and what is the question about him?
Is he immortal also?
Yeah, Saint Germain, I guess, is immortal. And I haven't actually ever met him physically, but I have had some inspirational contact with him, and I have kind of followed his his evolution and development, and there's definitely some consciousness there that's worth checking out. Somebody in the back had a question?
Will you please define emotional mind? Is that what you were saying earlier? Your emotional mind?
Yeah. Okay, well, the emotional mind is thought impressed upon energy. And so the emotional mind is basically what we might call the unconscious. The unconscious human mind, and it contains both good information and bad information. And that's one of the, and I'll close with this idea, that's one of the secrets that the Bible reveals to us if we think about it. Because if you go back to the Garden of Eden story, there were 2 trees in the garden. And one of the trees was called the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and the other tree was called the tree of life. And what the story says, that if you eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you will surely die. But if you eat of the tree of life, you'll live forever. And so if you meditate on that simple story, you will realize that to eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge, the fruit of the tree of, well, the tree of knowledge of good and evil is the mind, right? Our thinking ability. And so then the question is, what does it mean to eat the fruit of our own mind? And fundamentally, what it means is to confuse the effect with the source. And to eat of the tree of life means to always remember that we are the source of the fruit as well as the tree of knowledge. And so if we eat in the fruit of the mind is our ideas, feelings, and beliefs. Our thoughts, emotions, and beliefs, including our beliefs in certain facts, what we call facts. And so then if we become the victims of our thoughts and feelings and facts, or our belief systems, then we will surely die. And so that leads you to the conclusion that believing in physical immortality is as dangerous as believing that death is inevitable. And so if we get stuck in the belief system around physical immortality rather than learning how to live from the source, then we're dead. And that's why the authors of all those books about physical immortality died. So that's a very profound and important distinction to be made and for you to think about, because, see, the fact is that you can fight over the philosophy of physical immortality. You can fight people and kill other people or be killed by other people if you are confused between the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. Whatever happened to Babaji? Yes, well, Babaji stopped his heart and had his body buried according to his design, predetermined design, on February 14th, 1984. And if you look at the pictures, let's see, I thought I brought that up here.
You had that
It's here somewhere. Babaji's lifestyle in his 9,000-year-old body has basically been to participate in human history for 25 to 50 years and then to disappear and go into the mountains and practice spiritual practices for 25 to 50 years and then come back and participate. And so like during the 1800s, when he came back, he was looking like a young man. And then he accelerated the aging process. In only 20 years or so, he looked like an old man. And however, at the end of that time, he didn't go through a death leela. He dematerialized his body. He levitated and dematerialized his body. And then he went through a cleansing process and rejuvenated the body totally. And I mentioned in yoga that, in your Secrets of Youthing issue, and the Shiva Purana is a picture of Babaji in 1970. Both of these pictures were actually taken in 1970. And so then in the picture, in this video that we saw, that started in 1987. 1977, I think, was the date, right? 1977. So you can see how much his body changed in just 7 years. And I watched it change during the 5 or 6 years that I met him, and I could also see it change from day to day. It's totally amazing. And basically, proper understanding leads you to the conclusion that he was really illustrating what the lifestyle of his devotees would do to them if they didn't change their lifestyle. And so he had his body buried on Valentine's Day of 1984. And in September of 1984, he wrote a letter to two people, and I was one of them. And the letter started out saying, I'm alive and well in Nepal, and I only have one devotee. And he said, I left the ashram because of the scandals of ashram life, and any of you that have ever been to an ashram, you know what that means. And he said that the 5 elements of my body never die, and to reconstitute them is a great experiment of yoga. And so basically, if you examine the facts, he fundamentally dematerialized his body, went to Nepal, rematerialized, and started a new life in Nepal. Well, Bhartaji basically did the same thing 7 times in the last 2,000 years. He had his body buried alive in front of hundreds of people and disappeared to their sensual awareness unless they had enough spiritual development that they could see him when he was doing other things between those public appearances and those public demonstrations of immortal yoga. And so I went to, usually when I went to see Bhartaji, he always put in an appearance for me, primarily because of special urging by his guru, who is Babaji. And he always put in an appearance for me, and I've seen him 6 or 7 times. But all the times that I went to see him, I only had maximum 3 days to spend at his ashram. And one of the things that I learned the first time that I went there is that I met the son of the main priest of the temple at his ashram. And the son was 14 years old at the time. And his father had been the priest of the temple for over 20 years and had never seen Bhartaji in 20 years of being the main priest of the temple. But he appeared to his son, and he showed his son a lotus on his footprint and said, if you ever have any doubt about my appearance, then, or whether or not it's me, you can just look for the lotus on my footprint. And so that was 1981, and I've resumed my relationship to that boy, who is now a farmer with a family. And Bhartaji has since appeared to him several times in the last, since 1981, which is 26 years. And he's also appeared to his father a few times. But the point is that Bhartaji is known as an immortal, he's known as a yogi, not a guru. And so he has profound respect for what I call emotional energy pollution. And in the context of living for 2,000 years, you're not impressed by people's burst of enthusiasm that comes and goes in a few days or a few hours. And so unless you are interested in having a relationship with him for 25 to 50 years, and you do something that is significant enough to get his attention, then forget it. And so that is a whole different concept of education and learning than we are used to in the Western world. Because in the Western world, we are totally hypnotized by theory rather than reality, whereas immortal yogis are not hypnotized by that problem. And you have to demonstrate your mastery over reality before you can get their attention in some meaningful way. Yes?
Just regarding Babaji, is this the same Babaji that is talked about in Autobiography of a Yogi?
Well, the true answer is yes and no. The picture that is in that book is not of Babaji, but it's of Kartikeya. And Kartikeya incarnated about 1,100 years ago in a physical body. And Kartikeya is a son of Shiva that was created out of light. Ganesha is a son of Parvati, who was created out of the dust of the ground, but millions of years before Adam. and Eve, but and so Kartikeya was created out of light, and he has several other names, but these great beings can also incarnate if they have a purpose to incarnate. And so that picture is actually of Kartikeya's body, that at the time of Yogananda it was over 1,000 years old. And however, Lahira Mahasaya got initiated, I don't know whether it was Kartikeya or Babaji, but Lahira Mahasaya had a relationship to Babaji as well as to Kartikeya. And I don't think there's any of his writings that distinguish between the two, but there is a distinction between the two. And however, Babaji, of course, being the creator of the universe, has such an expanded mind that he can use anybody or anything to achieve his purposes. And when somebody else is willing to do something that he doesn't have to do, that makes him happy. He's not necessarily lazy, but he's pretty busy. But he also enjoys any of us evolving to the point of doing any of the works that need to be done in creation, and supports that, and is not bothered by confusion in mortals' minds between one person and himself. Another person, whether it's a specific son of his or anybody else who is capable of delivering some value for other people. And in the meantime, you're always all welcome to come to Virginia.
Isn't he great? I mean, this is wow.